I think we have about 30 minutes. Marcel? Yeah.
The exact time is 30 minutes, so
30
until
minutes. So,
15.
yeah. We have seen quite some exciting solutions from Riddle & Code. Kai, you presented your MyPower solution. We have seen the ops chain here from Jan Rosam from EY, and also here the regulatory perspectives from the Northern Rose team. And yesterday, you covered Jan, the DAO aspects as well. And for me, this is really a very exciting topic here at the intersection of ESG and blockchain. And if I take a step back, the two, because it opens up such a huge area with real-world problems, in the area of environment, climate change, sustainable production, into the governance aspects represented by DAOs, and the question of how can crypto, blockchain, DLT support here, and what can be provided in solutions is very fascinating. And the blockchain itself, for me, provides here two layers of innovation. The first one being the actual technical layer of the database, which provides a registry, a superior registry for transactions. And the second layer, more or less, the ability to define unique digital bearer tokens on top of such a computer network that can be transferred across the internet, and they represent digital or physical assets that in a way and enable the creation of token economies. They can be used as incentive mechanisms. And in this respect, with this, I would like maybe briefly to summarize the key challenges you see in that space, and also how you address these challenges with your solutions. And I would just start maybe with Kai again, to briefly maybe mention a few key aspects from your solutions and how you see that.
Sure. Thanks, Oliver. I just want to maybe take out one of the points that you made, and that's you know, the incentivization and the different reasons or characteristics the token can have, and that you put in and you design the token for, right? I think there are experts out there that are much better able to talk about the incentivization tokens and different other things. But what we learned in energy is that if you want to create large networks of players that trade not just for fun and for virtual purposes, but based on a physical asset with each other, and you want to basically create the new marketplaces similar to marketplaces, for example, staying with the energy picture and the high voltage levels, and you want to get them into medium and low voltage levels, you need a stable token, right? You cannot play around with a token that has a speculative value and your portfolio is basically going up and down the whole way through. So this is important for us. I think we're not yet there. We don't have found a very good solution that is sizable on the one hand and is also accepted by our industry partners, but we're working on it. So this is a point that I want to make.
Okay. Yeah, maybe Jan Rosam, to that end, when we are so deep in the tech area.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, when as I explained in my talk, when I look at ESG, I really, the data issue we have is super complex. And this is something which drives me, because as I explained, at the end of the day, when you look from a financial institution perspective, when they launch a green product, somehow they need to prove eventually that this actually made the impact they are it's supposed to have. So, and therefore the question is, how do you prove this? If you cannot link your actual asset investment to the actual source where basically the effect has been or is produced, then it's for me, it's a question, how do you prove that these investments are really making the impact you want to do? And I think when you think about this, it's a new way how we think about data, how we share data, how we collect data and make it transparent. And I think this is something, at least for me, where I see big impacts besides all the other use cases, which are fantastic, of course.
Yeah. And to the data point, maybe you could add, Carolyn. I think you can directly speak.
Okay. Yeah, I'm absolutely agreeing, because the greenwashing point is one of the most relevant issues also seen by the regulators. And the proof, what you do, if you have regulation, is always a key point, which means you have internal control systems. You have to prove and to show also at director level, at C-level, that you implemented regulation, that you made sure what's happening, and I said throughout the chain with the European supply chain law, that everything has been correct. And I think therefore you need new technologies to do this, otherwise it's really getting difficult. And so it's an enabler for me on different levels, and this is one of the most important ones.
Yeah, or you rely on third-party providers to provide the data. But then again, if you look at the law, it's a question of trust. I mean, is the data provider, where's the data coming from? You have transparency requirements where financial institutions need to provide information. Where did the original data come from? So again, it's as you were saying, I think it's really, we need to trace back the information to the source so that the investor basically can prove that it really made the impact he was hoping to achieve.
And this is currently done by providers like Gold Standard or Vera as trusted providers here. And I doubt that they are currently already deep into that blockchain space. So I always have the impression that they rather, let's say, take a plane, fly somewhere into the Amazon, and then they measure the tree, and whether this still stands there, I don't know whether that's the right thing, but they are also very, very expensive. And I think to that end, I think blockchain technology could really provide solutions and benefits to make that actually information and this data accessible and traceable.
And well, maybe just one point. I think a lot of people think that regulation is just relevant for financial markets, but now there is a link to the real economy. It comes at the latest point with the supply chain laws, Lieferkettengesetze, but there is a real impact between regulation, financial market, and real economy. And this means if you think, I don't care about the banks, the financial services, I don't care, I take the other ones, there will be no other ones in future. Sustainability will be an issue of everybody who is trading, who is doing business, except for some, I don't know, black markets somewhere in the internet. And if you want to be a real player, you have to deal with it and take it as a chance.
And on the other hand, we have such new instruments and new organizational forms we see, like the DAOs. KlimaDAO was just mentioned here. I personally had a look into that, and I personally also invested in a few DAOs. So even for me, being in that space for several years now, this is actually quite challenging to participate in such governance mechanisms, and it takes a lot of time also to familiarize yourself with that and what is going on there, and to participate in that. So maybe as you were looking, Timo, into that DAO topic, how do you see this? Do you see a future there for those organizational forms gaining traction and let's say widespread adoption?
Absolutely. Thanks, Oliver. I mean, if we speak about the decentralized finance or DAOs, I think it was in the discussion yesterday, we talked about what's so bad with the current system, and someone said it's not about the current system, it's about what DLT can actually provide as an advantage. So for the European perspective, we would say, okay, I want to transfer some euros to the US, and it takes so long time and it's expensive, but that's, let's say, a very high standard. Yeah. If you go to Africa or Southeast Asia, you have these plenty farmers, and they do not get any bank account, or they're not, let's say, bankable, because they have a high-risk business, yeah, because they're farming and they're really depending on special weather conditions, and they do not get insurance. Yeah. So there's, for example, I think it was published like a week ago, this great project of, I think, Lemonade, Etherisk, and some others. They are actually going out there and with special data provision, insuring over a DLT system the farmers, so they have got an insurance, and with the insurance they can get banking possibilities also. So if you talk about the ESG, the social impact, I think there's a great chance of really making a change in these systems also.
Yeah, great point. And with that and with the DAO comes also the opportunity to invest in sustainability projects. And with that, maybe to Jan Kühne from Coinbase, that's a topic that's very relevant to Coinbase as a platform, basically a centralized player in that field who makes assets and tokens available to the general public. Are you already looking into that space at Coinbase?
Well, maybe to put a more broader perspective on that, we have seen and heard a lot of examples here on the panel and before on that, how blockchain and DLT can help to tackle all these problems we have, from environmental problems we see and regulatory problems we see. And I think blockchain is a great mean to help in this regard and improve the situation we have. And what is then the role of Coinbase and other central institutions in that? Basically the same role Coinbase saw for themselves when it was founded 10 years ago. It is an easy access into a crypto asset. At that time, basically it's Bitcoin. But now it's a lot more of that, and all these things to have that accessible for the user. There are definitely, there we see our role to have an easy access and a regulated, compliant access into these product and solution to at the end help then bring these good purposes forward and improve in that regard. And social and governmental is important to that, and improve economic freedom within the helps of cryptocurrencies and the crypto economy.
Yeah, so I personally see basically here two worlds. We have more or less the traditional finance world with the large capital pools, and on the other hand, you have the more crypto native DEX movement, the crypto punks, and maybe also the Fridays for Future movement, which is probably rather critical to those players. And yeah, I personally have the hope that we will see in the future a bridge between the two worlds, and something coming out of that that somehow allows all those participants here in such markets to interact via very good technological basis and a blockchain basis. Maybe someone of you could comment there. Who wants to? How do you see the future here, and also the challenges from where we are? Maybe further challenges beyond the tech.
Just because we heard it before, the generation you're speaking about, the generation Fridays for Future, is also the generation crypto, or one generation. I mean, we are old already. So that's the generation that is asking for solutions and for questions. And I think it's not too hard to explain them that, as we said, you don't have to be a moralist, but it's kind of the safekeeping of the planet and our wealth to bring these things together. If we don't, and as I said, that's not a green question, that's just logic. And they're asking for solutions.
Absolutely.
So thanks a lot. I would comment on this as well. So based on what you just said, I think one of the future movements could be from this global game that we are all talking about. When we are talking about Bitcoin, it's a global network, and all the different things that can be traded globally. It would be interesting to use the opportunity to also the advantages of tokenization, for example, for local communities. This is really interesting, and obviously we have a very high focus on that because the assets we tokenize are very much creating energy for local communities, and it would be so nice, yeah, to take this as a source for value creation, for local value creation, and at the same time get the community members, the old and the young ones, to win their interest in these assets. There is a solar power plant. There is maybe whatever, a charging station, maybe on the school roof. You know, what is it all about? It produces energy, it produces euro. How does it work? And how do we care about it? And I think through also these local communities that we should take care of with different token types, we could bring the generations together on practical examples.
So examples that go beyond what we see largely here in, for instance, the voluntary carbon credit markets, where you can invest and offset your carbon footprint by investing in a reforestation project somewhere in the Amazon, and then things come out there, like I think in the Reve case recently, they had a big scandal because there was an investment in a project that more or less didn't exist, things like that. So I'm also very optimistic that we will see in the near future, let's say, higher quality investment opportunities there that provide real impact, and through the technology also provide, you can provide the security basically of where I put my money.
Yeah, just for the obstacles, yeah, from the different opportunity. When you talk about especially like DAOs or decentralized finance solutions, and as you said, it's a global solution. Yeah, we want to challenge global problems. It is very difficult to have a good legal advice on this, because the laws are so different in the different member states, even in the European Union. But if you talk about, let's say, the global approach, yeah, about Africa or China, and it is even for, let's say, for Germany, quite hard to predict if a DAO is regulated or not, or if it is an insurance or not. So it is very, very difficult for young startups to actually know what they can do and where, because it is by means of the nature, it is decentralized, so it's everywhere.
That's true, and we even from my entitled and investment natives colleagues, we just recently launched a DAO without a legal entity that actually raised about 17 million euro and has so far no legal entity and just a treasury managed by about 85 people across the globe. So very interesting times, I think. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not a technical expert, but if you look at the social taxonomy, which is now, it's just a proposal how it could be, but they say that if you do something good in a social way, for example, you do financing for a group of people which are, you know, not normally would not get it, but on the other hand side, you do harm to another goal, which means, for example, you have then intransparency and problems of, you know, you harm other social goals. It cannot happen. And my question is, and I really don't know what's the answer, the balance between the positive of decentralized systems and the downside by maybe not having transparency. And we know that also people might misuse things. So it's interesting also in terms of, can this be green, not green, can this be sustainable, can this be social?
I don't see that as a contradiction between decentralized and transparency, because blockchain basically is compliance by design, because it's not anonymous, it's pseudonymous. You have the whole transaction history written into the blockchain, and there are a lot of possible ways to do analytics on that, to bring transparency into that, which you don't have in I don't know, peer-to-peer contractual or on the fiat rails or in other ways. So I think really from a transparency perspective, blockchain and DLT could benefit to make things more transparent.
If they do, but I know a lot of people don't like it, and the pure Bitcoin idea is not to put much transparency and
well, at least the transaction is actually fully transparent. The question is how do you actually?
I can only talk for Coinbase here, and of course, if you have a new technology, it will be exploding in many different ways. That is, with every new technology, it's the place. But we at Coinbase, from the beginning on, we were really actively approaching regulator on how to make that asset class compliant. And like the travel rule, as an example, is something where Coinbase moved forward with a trust solution to find for the industry, not for Coinbase itself, but for the industry solution to be compliant to the travel rule within all the virtual asset service provider as a community to move forward. And in the same way, if there are such issues, and the whole industry would definitely promote ways to have transparency where it's really necessary. But on the other hand, we have data security, and we value that as well. So yeah, it's probably not on us to decide, but on the community in total to decide on that, where the trade-offs are.
Yeah, just to come back on what the future, so at least, so I fully agree with you, and of course, blockchain is it's a global network, so therefore, in climate change is a global problem. It's not just a problem in Germany. That's the reason why I'm so concerned about how to prove that the investment was basically correct, because just measuring the climate change, of course, since it's a global problem, will not be enough. But another point where I see where maybe the link is a bit missing. I mean, I think on the enterprise level, we need something. I mean, we talk a lot about retail, isn't it? So retail investors can do things. But I mean, basically, who connects Energy Vienna with RWA, with all these energy enterprises to build an ecosystem where we can link all these use cases together to form a whole network where we can measure the impact really on a wider scale. And I think this, at least I can't see it. Maybe that's a call for the European Commission, who was here before and said they have big ambitions. So maybe also on a European level and government level to make sure that maybe they embrace DLT technology, also in this case, maybe to use it to bring all these ecosystems together, because I think that would be needed, isn't it? Otherwise, we would end up in a lot of silos where we measure things in a different ways, but cannot combine it. So, but maybe it's just my view.
I think it's a very relevant point, and that's why I said, we are front-running regulation with our products, because many of our customers come to us with the requirement to go much further than the regulation, want to be even more green, than, for example, the REX regime in the European Union allows for it. So it just says 1 megawatt hour of electricity has been produced by a green source in some year in some country, right? Shareholder-driven companies such as Microsoft, they want to know by the hour from the source where does my electricity come from at the same time when they were consuming electricity in the data centers, right? So we offer them, we create products that can be offered to these private players that want to go voluntarily much, much further, hopefully inspiring the authorities to do something that creates transparency. At the same time, I think this could be also very dangerous, obviously, right? So a blockchain as a means, as a regulatory tool needs to be treated with an extremely sensitive manner, because
So we need reasonable regulation there. I think we here all would agree on that, and it could easily go into the wrong direction. That's why we need to engage also with the regulators, with the politicians, to work towards that. Maybe because we just have another 5 minutes, one aspect that I see really as key for ESG and crypto innovation coming to life and gaining mass adoption with, I would say, or I call it always like blockchain inside solutions. And you gave a good example here, Kai, with your Wien Energy token, where you don't promote actually the blockchain aspect, but it's the technology works inside, just as the TCP/IP protocol here works in my phone. Yeah? But a lot of money is needed, and you mentioned that, to make it actually happen, to actually get the real impact. And here as well, tokens and token investments could provide a huge opportunity also to leverage the community, maybe via DAOs, with all those transparency aspects that need to be implemented. But how do you see that? Do you see classic VCs, ESG investors here displaced by such new mechanisms, or are you skeptical with that? Maybe here for the... Who wants to take that one?
Yeah, so, okay.
At least Jan is answering. So.
Yes, sorry. Exactly. No, I mean, it's not just ESG related, isn't it? I mean, DAO, of course, if you are in the transaction market, then it's basically what you do today in an analog fashion, you could actually do also in a DAO. So yeah, I think at least I can say we see investors or group of investors looking into leverage the technology to optimize the process of collecting money. So, but as you were saying, and as Magnus Jones from us said, that the one regulation is very complex, specifically when it comes to DeFi and DAOs, and the tax aspect is super complex. And I think in the European Union, at least for the moment, I don't feel that we are embracing DAOs very much on a regulatory level, but that might change. Yeah.
Maybe just to shortly end on that with regards to token sale in general, and as you mentioned VC money, and we see tremendous VC money going into DeFi and crypto. I think last year it was 28 billion, which was I think sevenfold to the year before, and in the sum, the total we had in the prior 10 years cumulative together. So, and that money is going into token sales as well. So that's where they're investing in.
I think it depends always if a tool or an IT solution make things easier, quicker, and better return out of it, they would use it. And I think it's very important to understand there is not that token or there is not that blockchain or not that. It's not the technology as such that is regulated. It's always what you do. And the regulator, he took the view, do I know what happens? Is this familiar to me? Is it like a certificate? Is it like a security? Is it like a financing? And then he adapts the rule. He would also adapt if I would use not a blockchain. So easy and so difficult it is. So we have to look at it from what we want to do with it.
Maybe Kai, you mentioned in your solution the security token aspect and the utility token aspect, and you also mentioned this huge capital need here to advance this whole space. Yeah, are you maybe in the closing round here optimistic that we will reach the net zero goal by 2050 and that blockchain can play a major role in that context?
I'm optimistic, yes, a big yes, because it's not only so. From my understanding, also being a former analyst for an energy player, I'm very much convinced that the most ecological solutions nowadays are very often also the most economical solutions, right? Look at the solar prices coming down, solar costs, PV panels, battery prices, and so on and so forth. So I'm convinced about that. It's about the fair share of the Green New Deal to everyone. But I think as we are all in crypto, this is not black and white. This is a gray zone. And we can create more transparency, but we have to stick together. So we need to exchange for this moment when we are all growing. It's not the time for competition. We need to stick together. We need to exchange our thoughts and information how we do deal with ESG together with our customers. I highly recommend joining the Blockchain Circle tomorrow. It's a kickoff event where practitioners come together. It's basically organized by the Frankfurt School of Finance with Züge and Riddle and Code. And I hope that this can lay the foundation of more interconnection between us, so we fall not to the same, disadvantages like our current government sometimes, because it's too overregulated, it's too gray. Let's stay clean here.
Maybe just to your neighbor here, some final words here to close the panel, because I see already Marcel giving me a sign.
Maybe just to make it short, I think it's a global problem we're facing here, and blockchain is a global solution on that. So I'm pretty sure that blockchain will help to reach this goal.
No, definitely. I mean, as you were saying, I think this is really, I mean, the power of this community is that we are working together. It's really a community, and as you were saying, it's a collective effort from everyone, and maybe it's a role model, the crypto community, in working together, which obviously is not the case in other industries. But yeah, hopefully let's leverage it, and I'm very convinced we will achieve these goals. And maybe we need to anyhow, yeah.
As I said, I'm a believer, so I agree with Guy, and I say as much regulation as is needed, but not more. And this is something we have to work out. If we leave it to the regulator, it will not come.
Well, closing, I'm also positive, so a bit boring probably. But why? We've seen this whole regulation coming in, but a lot of it is actually, let's say, optional, so you just have to be transparent. But still, like, we as a lawyer, we were like all surprised that everyone really wants it. So the investors, they want it. The product initiators, they want it. So everyone wants to be like over compliant, and that was really a shift in the mindset. So let's keep positive.
That's a great closing word. So, yeah, thanks a lot to our panelists here. I think a very good summary and further insights here on what we just heard. And I think we will have some further very interesting deep dives into that subject following this panel. So, thanks a lot again.